Hey folks, my name is Utkarsh. Let's build this Gish. Before we start, I want to give a big shout out to Chris from Treant Monk's Temple. He's the one who got me started on my now obsessive hobby of optimizing DnD5e builds. And you will notice some of his touches in today's build as well, such as favoring high saving throws and high AC. That said, I find that Chris undervalues bards specifically for use in Gish builds, and I wanted to put forward a reason to use bards as the core of a Gish build. Now, 5th edition is, surprisingly, balanced enough that you cannot make one character that's good at everything in every context. So when I'm talking about this Gish build, I need to qualify when it is going to shine. Specifically, it's going to shine in campaigns where you don't have many combats between long rests. Now we all know, or some of us will know, that 5th edition prescribes 6 to 8 combats between long rest, but most campaigns don't play it this way. And so, or at least most campaigns that I have played in. So this build will shine in those campaigns where there are few combats per long rest. Because once the build comes online, you are going to be burning spell slots at the rate of 2, maybe 3 spell slots per round. That's not sustainable. You don't want to take this build into a dungeon crawler campaign where you're going to have 6 to 8 combats between long rests. With that caveat out of the way, let's get started. To the surprise of very few people, we will be starting out with Variant Human, though the specific feat may come as a surprise to some of you. We will pick Divine Soul Sorcerer as our first class, because that gives us proficiency in concentration saves, constitution saves, which apply to concentration as well as a bunch of other situations. For stats, we will do point by. We will assign the +1 from Variant Human to Charisma and the other +1 to Dexterity, giving us in total 16 Charisma, 16 Dexterity, 14 Constitution, 10 Wisdom, 8 Intelligence, 8 Strength. For the Sorcerer spells, we will pick up Shield, Sleep, and from the Divine Magic feature of Divine Soul, we will take Bless. The feat that we will take at level 1 with the Variant Human is Metamagic Adapt. Specifically, we are here for Quicken Spell, which is going to give us a taste of that action economy heaven that we will completely unlock, more fully unlock, at level 8 in this character. So take Quicken Spell as one of the metamagics, and for the other one, I would say choose between Subtle Spell and Careful Spell. I think with a Bard character, either of those two can be useful. Our tactic at level 1 is going to be Quicken Casting, either Bless or Sleep, and then using our light crossbow to shoot at things from a distance. Hopefully we don't have to use our sole other spell slot for shield, but because we are staying far away in the distance from the enemies. But hey, if you have to, you have to. At level 2, we will take our first level in Bard. Multiclassing into Bard gives us light armor, which is great. I'll take an extra 1 to 2 points to my AC any day. It also gets us 1 additional skill. I haven't talked about skills and backgrounds much, yet, and I'm not going to. You can pick whichever ones best suit your campaign. We get proficiency with a musical instrument. That's great. And then we get all of the other first level bard stuff, such as spellcasting. Amazing. I will recommend Healing Word and Fairy Fire, and then pick whichever other one you want. And we get Bardic Inspiration. Surprisingly, in this particular build, Bardic Inspiration doesn't do much for our gishiness. There is an alternative version of this build which starts out as level 1 Sword Bard, in which case Bardic Inspiration does become better for us, but I would have to give up Constitution proficiency for that, and that's not something I'm willing to do, con save proficiency. So instead, hey, we will be a font of inspiration to our allies instead of using it ourselves selfishly. And at character level 2, our tactics haven't changed too much. We are wearing light armor, so that's great. Then on the first round of combat, we assess the field. If it looks like it's a difficult combat, we can quicken our Bless spell or Fairy Fire or Sleep. And then with our main action, we can use the light crossbow. And on subsequent turns, we can use the light crossbow and give Bardic Inspiration to our allies. Pretty solid level 2. Not yet gishy enough, but we know that. At character level 3, we take Bard 2. We get Jack of all trades and Song of Rest. 2 good features that I'm not going to talk about anymore because they don't directly contribute to our gishiness. Just note that Jack of all trade does apply to initiative checks as well as ability checks made for the Dispel Magic spell and Counterspell if we were to get it using Magical Secrets. At level 3 Bard, so character level 4, we get Expertise, which is great, but more importantly, we get our college, which is Valor. So why Valor Bard instead of Sword Bard? The most important reason is to pick up weapon proficiencies. Valor Bard gives us proficiency with all martial weapons, allowing us to spec into either an archer build like we are doing today, or the alternative build where we chose to take 16 strength instead of 16 dex, where we can make a great sword wielding, great weapon master build. We also get proficiency with medium armor and shields. We won't be using shields much, not unless you are at an absolute pinch. But the medium armor we will happily take to provide another couple of points of AC boost to our armor class, sitting at around 16, maybe 17 armor class. It's not going to get a lot better than that, but that's why we have the shield spell in our back pocket. Our use of inspiration with College of Valor, combat inspiration, doesn't apply to our own attacks. So just like the previous couple of levels, we can hand out our Bardic Inspiration to our allies who can continue using these inspiration points for being better in combat. We will continue to use inspiration this way for all 20 levels. The only thing that'll change later on is when we give out this inspiration. Now that we have proficiency with martial weapons, though, it's time to upgrade our light crossbow into a heavy crossbow. The general tactic still remains the same. We assess the battlefield. Do we need to quicken a spell? If so, we do it on the first round, and then make an attack with our now heavy crossbow. On subsequent turns, we can either cast spells. We now have a few different spells and spell slots available to us, or we can use our heavy crossbow, whatever we see is appropriate, and then use our bonus action to give out Bardic Inspiration. As for level 2 spells that we now have access to, I would say pick whichever ones you like. Although if I were to make a short list of good spells, Aid and Blindness are going to be good spells for this character. Because of the multi-classing that we did into Sorcerer, we are often going to have that extra spell slot that's one level higher, and we want spells that can be upcast, and both Aid and Blindness upcast nicely. So does Hold Person, by the way. Shatter does not upcast well, but for a second level spell for AoE damage, it's good. And then there are the fun spells. If you picked Subtle Spell Meta Magic, pick up Suggestion. Invisibility is a fun one to use. Yeah, just pick whichever of these spells you find interesting and suited to your campaign. At character level 5, we will pick up the Sharpshooter feat. We don't have the +2 to hit from the archery fighting style, but we can bless ourselves and some party members, and we can use Fairy Fire to give ourselves advantage. This character at this level is not going to have a consistent way of giving themselves advantage, so use your judgment. There are a lot of calculations, there's a lot of math out there as to when you should use the -5 penalty from Sharpshooter to give yourself the +10 bonus to damage. Regardless though, your range has now suddenly tripled. Well, effective range. You could still shoot at the long range of the heavy crossbow with disadvantage, but now there's no more disadvantage. And half cover and 3/4 covers are no longer going to block you from hitting your shots. It's a good get at this level, but that doesn't take away from the fact that this level is going to sting. At level 5, your pure martial characters have their extra attack, and your pure spellcaster characters have 3rd level spells. And you got Sharpshooter, which is nice. It's not nothing. It's a core part of our build. But it doesn't quite match up to either of those two things. You're going to start catching up very soon and outdoing the others very soon by having both of these things that you lost. But without sugarcoating, I will say that level 5 is going to feel the most off. Don't worry though, it's going to get better immediately. Speaking of, let's talk about level 6 in this class. We get Font of Inspiration, which makes it so that our Bardic Inspiration comes back on a short rest instead of a long rest. That's great for our allies. For ourselves, we are happy because we get access to 3rd level spells. 3rd level Bard spells are not necessarily the cream of the crop, but there are some standouts. Specifically, the one that I will recommend without any hesitation is Hypnotic Pattern. At this level, not that many enemies are going to be immune to the Charmed condition. Although if you find that you are running into a lot of enemies immune to the Charmed condition, pick Fear instead. 2 really good spells, pick either one of those. And then it's really your choice. Do you want more battlefield control? You can pick something like Plant Growth or even Slow. Do you want more out of combat utility? You can pick Leomund's tiny hut, or tongues. I do like the spell tongues. I like saying it more so than I like actually picking it and using it. Major Image is another one of those spells that I often think about taking, never end up taking, but I wish in many situations that I had it because of all of the fun things you can do out of combat with it. Level 6, it's a good level for our character. Level 7 is an even better level for our character as we finally, 2 levels later, get our extra attack. And that forms all of the key pieces of our martial prowess. I'm going to say until we hit level 19 in this character. This is what we are relying on. We have extra attack with sharpshooter, and a few different ways, so far a few uncertain ways, but still a few different ways of giving ourselves advantage. I don't think there's a lot more to say other than the bad feelings of level 5 should be cleared up at this point, because the marshals, what they got at level 5, and the spellcasters, what they got at level 5, you now have both. You have 3rd level spells as well as extra attack. It's time to just close that loop and become the Gish that we were meant to be. So let's head on over to level 8. One addendum to the extra attack feature is that because we don't have the crossbow expert feat, and we're not going to, we now have to switch over from using heavy crossbow to using the longbow. It's 1 point less damage on average, but it is greater range for us, especially with sharpshooter. At character level 8, we get our 2nd level in Sorcerer, which unlocks for us 2 additional sorcery points per long rest, in combination with the Metamagic Adept feat. That is now a total of 4 sorcery points. That's going to be the maximum that we can have in our entire career. And more importantly, we get flexible casting, which is the ability to turn our spell slots into additional sorcery points. And here, finally, our tactic changes and becomes oh so gishy. On the first round of combat, we assess the battlefield. We figure out which spell is going to be the most helpful for us. We cast it using Quicken Spell with the 2 sorcery points that we got from our Metamagic Adept feat. And then with our main action, we take the extra attack, pew, pew, shoot twice. Second round of combat comes along. We have 2 more sorcery points. We reassess the battlefield. We cast another spell, quickening it with the 2 other sorcery points we just unlocked. And using our main action to once again, pew, pew. The 3rd round in combat, we really assess the battlefield this time around. Does it look like the battle is coming to a close? If it is, maybe we just take the attack action. Maybe we just cast a spell or a cantrip. Or if it looks like battle is going to continue and we need to do more of what we love doing, then we use our bonus action to convert a 2nd level slot into 2 sorcery points. And then with our main action, we choose, do we want to take the attack action? Probably going to be quite helpful at this level. Or do we want to cast another spell? As you can imagine, This will eat up your spell slots quickly. But that is kind of what we are here for. Because the next round in combat, you get to once again quicken a spell as a bonus action, and then take your main action to pew pew. Rinse and repeat until you run out of spell slots, I think. And now our Gish has reached what I will say is peak Gishiness for this tier of play at least. So let us just reassess this character. In terms of offense, we have the attack action with extra attack and sharpshooter. It's good, but it's only two attacks, and our 2-hit bonus is not quite where I would like it to be. Still, it's not bad by any means. In terms of offensive spells, we only have Shatter, which is really not cutting it at this point at level 8. Maybe useful to clean up really low HP enemies, but nothing more than that. That said, in terms of debuffing and buffing, we are doing quite well. Hopefully we have spells like Hypnotic Pattern, Plant Growth, Slow, Blindness, Fairy Fire, and we are able to combine those debuffing spells with our attack action, making the total package to be more than the sum of its parts. In terms of defense, we have decent armor class, 17 at this point I expect with half plate, maybe 18 if your DM was really nice and gave you +1 half plate. We have the shield spell in our pocket. At 8th level, we would want to swap out the sleep spell in favor of the absorb elements spell. And we do get an additional spell with sorcerer, and if you're allowed to take it, might as well take silvery barbs. That's another good debuff. That said, we have good AC with shield, absorb elements for all of those elemental damage, proficiency with constitution saving throws, favored of the gods, which can give us a 2d4 every short rest to our saving throws. That's going to be quite useful. So defensively, I would say we are good. Still worried about that wisdom saving throw though. And in terms of support, I think we are doing quite well. We are one of those bards that doesn't have... Actually, it's impossible for us to use our bardic inspiration ourselves, so we have to be generous and we just give those out before combat starts, because we don't want to be using up our bonus action for that in combat anymore. We give them out to our allies and they can use them in a number of different ways. We can also be upcasting the aid spell. We have Healing Word in our back pocket that we can be pulling out when an ally goes down to 0 HP. So we are doing quite well in terms of support, in terms of control, and in terms of damage. Only because we can do that damage in addition to the control on the same turn. It's looking like a decent package. The Gish playstyle has come online. Now let's just push it to the limit. At Bard level 7, character level 9, and it is just going to be Bard from here on out. But at Bard level 7, we get access to 4th level Bard spells. The one that excites me the most is Greater Invisibility, because on our first turn in combat, or maybe even before combat starts, we cast that on ourselves, and now we have advantage on all our attack rolls made using Sharpshooter. unless it's cancelled out by some source of disadvantage. Oh. Did you know, this is just an aside, that the way the invisibility condition is worded, even against characters with true sight and blind sight, you would still have advantage against them. It's weird, and I don't think most DMs would run it that way. But rules as written, that is the case. Which makes greater invisibility sort of a foresight light spell. There are other good spells, though, to consider from the 4th level Bard spell list. Roaltham's Psychic Lance. Ooh, that sounds so cool. To quicken it in combat and do like a 7d6 of psychic energy and take away a creature's action, and then to hit them with your longbow. The other good spells, Dimension Door is great if you just want to reposition yourself. And there will be times when we want to, because we want to stay in range. DMs want to send their monsters in melee with us. We don't want that. We don't have Misty Step. So let's just bonus action Dimension Door to a spot that's 200 feet away or more, and force the enemy to walk their way to us. Confusion, another good spell. It bypasses immunity to Charmed and immunity to Frightened, so a strong one to consider. And finally, Polymorph is a strong buff, especially when an ally is approaching low hit points. Still, this is a good level for us. At level 10 in this character, we gain another ASI or feat. I will take the Fighting Initiate feat, and we do have proficiency in martial weapons, so we qualify for that feat. And I will use it to gain the Archery Fighting Style, just to improve my 2-hit bonus. This isn't necessarily the feat or ASI that you may want to go for. You could go +2 to Charisma to increase your spell save DC. You could even go +2 to Dexterity, though +2 to Dex isn't getting you as much as the +2 to your 2-hit bonus. Wow. I'll leave that choice up to you. My choice for this particular feat is Archery Fighting Style. At level 11, we gain level 9 spells with Bard, and this is where we pick up our big damage spell. Damage and debuff, because we are going for Synaptic Static. How can I forget the name of this spell? Synaptic Static is going to feel really good when you get to bonus action cast it and then pepper the enemy with some pew-pews. As for your other spells, well, you could take Animate Objects. If you really just need to pepper one enemy with a bunch of attacks using your bonus action as well, you can do that. It kind of swaps your regular playstyle, and you go from using your action to deal damage and your bonus action for controlling to now using your bonus action to deal damage with your animated objects. Always go for the multiple tiny objects, and then you use your action for something a little more controlly, like Roaltham's Lance, or what else does not use your concentration? Or Synaptic Static, if you have the spell slots for it, or Blindness Deafness. That said, there are going to be many times you find that your other concentration spells, like Hypnotic Pattern, like Confusion, like Greater Invisibility, those ones are going to be the more useful spell in that situation. And so that may be the thing that you quicken first and then use your main action for doing the attack action. Either way, you have the flexibility to mix and match as you see fit. So that's it for levels 10 and 11. At level 12, you get your pick of magical secrets. The responsible thing here to do would be to pick up Counterspell and Wall of Force. But you don't have to be responsible. You could, instead of one of those, pick up Conjure Volley or Steel Wind Strike, or both. Oh, no, maybe that would be a little too foolish. And then at level 13, you get access to 6 level bard spells. Just pick Mass Suggestion. You can pick some of the other ones if you really want, but Mass Suggestion is going to be the biggest bang for your buck. Again, once you quicken it, ooh, that's another really good turn. Quickened Mass Suggestion followed by 2 sharpshooter attacks. The only one I would say definitely avoid is Eye Bite, because it eats into your action every turn. For another character, for a pure bard build, a non-Gish, that might be quite useful. But for you, nah, just pass it. At character level 14, you get another feat, or ASI. I will recommend Resilient Wisdom. Even though you're only taking your wisdom from a 10 to an 11, it's the bonus to wisdom saving throws that I think are going to start really mattering from here on out. Let's be honest, they've probably mattered already. You may have failed a couple. Hopefully, Favorite of the Gods saved you once or twice. But now you're going to have proficiency in wisdom saving throws, along with Favor of the Gods, if you need it. If you don't want to go the defensive route, if your DM is not targeting your wisdom saves much, you can go a +2 to Charisma, improve that spell attack and spell save DC, or +2 to Dex for your archery. Though I wouldn't recommend it. I would say at this point, pump up your spellcasting more than your martial capabilities. Then, at level 15, which is Bard 13, you get access to 7th level Bard spells. You get Force Cage. That's the one I will strongly recommend. You get Resurrection, Teleport. Well, you get access to. You can pick up one or more of these following the spellcasting rules of Bard. So Force Cage is good, Teleport is good, Resurrection is good, and Prismatic Spray is also not bad. Yes, it's just a one-action blast. And Synaptic Static is probably doing more for you than Prismatic Spray will. So, it's another option. Though again, higher priority should probably go to Force Cage, and then Resurrection, Teleport, etc. Character level 16 is a fun one for us. We get the Consolation Gish feature from Valor Bard, which is Battle Magic. This says that when you use an action to cast a Bard spell, you can make one weapon attack as a bonus action. Now, we've been doing better than that, but at the cost of sorcery points and spell slots that we use to fuel those sorcery points. What we can do now, if we want to, do we want to? We only want to when we are really gasping for resources. We could just cast those spells as the full action and then make a single consolation attack with our bonus action. It's fine. It's not nothing. It's going to be useful if you have many more combats happening between long rests. And it does play into the Gish part of our build, that we are never not able to do that. So hey, that's good. And more importantly, we get access to the next round of magical secrets. This one, I'm not 100% exactly what you should pick. I would say that my recommendations are to pick up the heal spell, because that can completely turn a battle around if you bonus action quicken cast heal on an ally, bringing them up by 70 hit points or more if you upcast it. And then you can pick Draconic Transformation. It's another good one, but it runs into the same, not concerns, but similar tactical usage as Animate Object, just now for AoE instead. Where if you want to swap your damage over to your bonus action and be doing bonus action AoE damage while flying, while having blind sight, and then using your main action for spell casting or also for damage if you so choose, then you can pick up Draconic Transformation. The only other one that I may recommend, not a strong recommendation, but a weaker one, is Reverse Gravity. Although I think you have enough things that use up your concentration right now that you're using for control. But still, Reverse Gravity, it bypasses a lot of condition immunities to create a fun scene as things go flying up into the sky. At character level 17, which is Bard 15, you get access to 8th level spells. There aren't any stellar ones, but you get access to Mind Blank, which is good to use if you're expecting an assault on your mind, or just as a default use of your 8th level slot on a daily basis. And you get access to Glibness, which can be useful when going up against spellcasters, because when you roll, when you roll Counterspell, the number that you roll is automatically replaced with a 15, unless it's higher. And plus, on top of that, you get to add Jack of all trades, which at this point is a 3. So I would recommend Mind Blank and Glibness. Now, there is something about this level and the next level in this class, which is character level 17 and 18, is you're going to feel a little short when you try to measure up to full casters who are now level 17 and have unlocked level 9 spells. The disparity isn't that bad because, again, you can combine your martial powers with your spellcasting. But yeah, these are going to be 2 other levels where I'm just going to feel just a touch underpowered. That's all. All right, Gish level 18, getting close to the end game. What should you pick for your ASI or feat over here? Myself, I am torn between Warcaster and a +2 to Charisma. I think I would pick Warcaster over here. Though, again, a +2 to Charisma could be quite useful, bringing up all your spell save DCs. And then we go to level 19 in this class, where we unlock 9th level spells for the Bard, which gives us access to Foresight and True Polymorph. 2 good spells. Decide which spell to cast based on what kind of day you're looking at. Foresight is just going to make all your martial capabilities so much better. So it's greater invisibility without the concentration and lasts for 8 hours. Gives you the flexibility to cast all of your other spells, including concentration spells, as a bonus action in addition to doing your usual sharpshootery things. That's the one I think I would favor. But hey, in a pinch, True Polymorph is there. And that is character level 19. Only one more level to go. Level 20. You get magical secrets. Ooh, which ones are you going to wish for? I know my answer. And it is shape change. For my second one, I might pick Wish. I might pick Meteor Swarm. Probably Wish, though. But shape change is the one that I'd be most excited to use in combat. Chris from Trained Monk's Temple has a great video diving into all of the wonderful possibilities of shape change. Though he does end up taking it often at 17th level itself, so comparing it to CR 17 creatures, whereas we get it at level 20, so we are now getting CR 20 creatures, which means we can become a Pit Fiend. You know that great ability that fighters have if they go all the way to level 20, which is 4 attacks per turn? Well, asterisk, they also get Action Surge. But their feature, the core feature that they get at level 20, is that they can take 4 attacks when they take the attack action. Well, the Pit Fiend gets to do that too, you know. And that's not the only thing it gets to do. It can take those 4 attacks, dealing a bunch of damage, and then it also has an unlimited supply of fireballs. You have a limited supply of sorcery points and spell slots, but the combination of the two means that you can be casting fireballs so frequently in combat as a bonus action, in addition to dishing out 4 attacks of the Pit Fiend. This in particular makes me just so happy to play this character. Oh, I have played it in a friend of mine's late game campaign, and just the ability to make those attacks, whether it's the 2 attacks of the Planetar or the 4 attacks of the Pit Fiend, and those are good attacks, by the way, but then to combine that with a bonus action casting of Fireball or Synaptic Static or Prismatic Spray or Waltham's Lance. Now, Shape Change is taking up my concentration, so I'm not quite free to cast any spell that I would like. If I wanted that kind of flexibility, then I would have cast Foresight using my 9th level slot, which means that Foresight is still useful for us here. But hey, if I get 4 attacks with a Pit Fiend and a bonus action to cast a whole bunch of spells, imagine upcasting Blindness at level 8, Heal spell at level 6, Force Cage at level 7, in addition to the 4 attacks of the Pit Fiend. That, to me, is the ultimate level 20 capstone. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say it's better than the Druid, especially Moon Druid, at level 20 capstone, but I will say that it is comparable. It is comparable at that point. And so that will conclude this Gish build. It's not going to be the most damage that a Gish can do at particular levels, or a pure martial can do at particular levels. And it's not going to be the most amount of control, because let's see, if I wanted to do more damage, then I would be looking for more attacks, such as Crossbow Expert or Action Surge. I would be looking for better 2-hit bonuses. And if I wanted to be better at control, I would be looking for more ways, or any way outside of Silvery Barbs, to affect enemy saving throws. So yeah, we are not the master of any one, but we are, in my opinion, the true jack of all trades. We can hit things decently well, we can control things decently well, we can support our allies decently well, and we can do multiples of those things on the same turn. Well, that is the gishiest gish that I have been able to come up with. I want to use this last section to talk about alternatives. How else can we get a really action economy oriented Gish build? And why did I choose this particular one over the others? So a lot of people favor the Bladesinger for their Gish build, and for good reason as well. Though I do have to say that the Bladesinger's damage output relies quite a bit on, martial damage output relies quite a bit on the use of Shadow Blade, which takes up their concentration, and so it limits their flexibility in which spells they can cast if they want to be good at both martial and spell casting. The other reason is that if I wanted to do a bonus action spell casting thing with the Bladesinger, and if I wanted to dip into 2 levels of sorcerers to be able to fuel those sorcery points, then that would make me more multiple attributes dependent than I think anyone would want to. You still have to get your dex high enough as a Bladesinger. You want good con, you want good intelligence, and then to also want charisma at 13. That's asking a fair amount, and that's nerfing the pure Bladesinger build by quite a bit. So that's why I don't think Bladesingers are quite as well suited to action economy heaven as the Bard Sorcerer is. Also, if the Bladesinger did want to switch to using Sharpshooter, well, they cannot use Great Weapon Master because that would kill their Blade Song, and Blade Song is just such a big part of Bladesinger that you wouldn't want to do that. If they did want to use Sharpshooter, they would be using a hand crossbow, or I think a sling. And then hand crossbow doesn't quite work with extra attack unless you go with a crossbow expert feat, which then gives the bonus action attack, which you're not going to be using as much because you want to be bonus action casting spells. Anyway, you can see why altogether I discarded Bladesinger as the option for this type of build where I want to be taking the attack action and casting spells on the same turn. Casting a non-cantrip spell, I should say, on the same turn. The next option to consider is a pure sorcerer build that picks up Tasha's otherworldly guise, which is, it's such an odd build. It's mostly a spellcaster, except starting at level 11. Wait, Tasha's otherworldly guise. What level spell is that? Starting at level 11, it can become a martial damage dealer as well, and it's a good spell. But relying on a 6th level or higher slot to gain access to your martial prowess, I couldn't wait that long. You're not a Gish for most of your career, and even then you're using a spell that requires concentration to maintain your Gishiness, so that's the main reason that that build was discarded. And then that brings us to our, I think, only other option, which is to go the same build that I did, but instead of Valor Bard, go Sword Bard. That was the initial concept. The trouble came when I was trying to get a proficiency in short bow or martial weapons, in longbows or with heavy weapons. Because it turns out that even though if you start off as Bard, you get proficiency in a short bow, you don't get that proficiency if you multiclass from Sorcerer into Bard. And that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to start out as Sorcerer 1 to get that con save proficiency. So there is this alternate build where if you discard the con save proficiency, you can start out as Bard 1, you get your short bow, you use the short bow for your entire career, and you go like 6 levels of Swords Bard, and then you go 2 levels of Sorcerer, Divine Soul Sorcerer, and then the rest you go Swords Bard. It has a couple of upsides. Your starting out armor class will be better, and you can use your Bardic Inspiration on yourself to give yourself better armor class in a pinch when you need to with those defensive flourishes. Flourishes, by the way, do not require your attacks to be made with melee weapons. You can make them with ranged weapons. And then starting at level 14, you would get that d6 bonus to armor class once per round, as long as you manage to hit an enemy with one of your weapon attacks as part of your attack action. So it's a good build as well. It's definitely a flashier build because you can use your Bardic Inspiration for yourself. It uses a short bow, so on average that's only 1 point of damage less than the long bow, although significant range decrease. But then again, who fights in the range of 300 to 600 feet anyway? So I would say that's a viable alternative. It just means that you have to choose between getting Resilient Wisdom and Resilient Constitution. And I have seen too many of Chris's videos to discard saving throw proficiencies like that. I've also lost a couple of characters by disregarding saving throw proficiencies like that, so I opted for the safer build with Valor Bard rather than the flashier build with Swords Bard. I will say though, if I did end up going Swords Bard, I would definitely pick up Steel Wind Strike. It fits in so well with the theme of the Swords Bard, and you don't even have to drop your bow to be able to cast that spell. You just need to pull out a dagger, and that dagger can be used as a spell casting focus, if I remember correctly. And then you do your slash, slash, slash. Omni slash. So those are some of the alternatives, and my reasoning for why I decided to go with this particular combination of Valor Bard plus Divine Soul to make this Gish.